probably hard to do much stopping and much going, because I think what will happen is the boat will luff. Well, the more I think about it, why don't we try that? We'll try it. If it doesn't work, we just won't do it again. But I guess what I'm getting at, what made me kind of rethink, let's not do stop and go, is we're all going to sit there luffing. And if we pull in the sails and breeze too quickly, the boat will heel over too much and it'll go sideways. So actually it puts more of an emphasis on being careful how the boat goes through the gears. Yeah, I think we'll try that. If it doesn't work, we'll say, okay, that's good enough. And then the jibe on the whistle, we won't do, because I'm going to suggest we don't do spinnakers. The reason I'm going to suggest we don't do spinnakers is not because we don't want to work on boat handling and all that. Or let me say this, when we're doing our drills, we won't fly spinnakers, because I want to focus on the things that I think really make the difference. And if we're messing with the spinnakers, especially when they're breeze, we can't set up well for mark roundings. Okay? So here's what I'm thinking. This up or down drill, and maybe you guys remember this from the last time. So we start, and we'll all do our practice starts, we'll all do whatever we want to do. Then the third start will be the stop and go drill. And we'll sail for 15 seconds, 12 seconds, whatever it is, and then we'll yell out up or down. And if we yell up, we'll just keep sailing to the weather mark and then come back to the finish and finish. So it's real short, up to the weather mark and down. And this distance is going to be like really short, like 150 yards maybe. And my idea is that when we do that, it's going to force us to have these encounters, if that's a nice way to put it, at the marks. And we're not looking to run into anybody or anything like that, but it's going to force us to kind of think about our tactics as we approach a mark rounding, okay? So maybe it's 200 yards, 300 yards, but it's going to be pretty short, so that when we yell up and we keep going, it's not going to be very long to get up there. Or if we yell down, then we'll all turn around and go down to the gate that we'll set down here. And again, the whole idea on that is to force us to think about how we're going to approach that gate and be squared away. Okay? And the goal again isn't for all 15 boats to get there at the same time and smash into each other. The goal is for us to kind of plan and be in the proper spot. So let me ask you, does that make sense, you guys? And if we did that with spinnakers, then we add another variable that doesn't allow us to focus on the mark rounding. So let's talk about the weather mark here real quick. What do you think is the best way, and here's the ley lines, let's say. What do you think is the best way to approach a weather mark? Anybody want to give their 2 cents on how? Yeah.
Come in about 4 boat lengths away on a port.
Exactly, like down in here. Right. And why don't we want to be kind of coming in on the port tack ley line? And we've all been there, and we all know what that feels like. What's the right? Well, and with the rules, right? Especially now, they've put such an emphasis on what kind of not damage, but what kind of effect we can have on the starboard tacker with them luffing up and all that. There's no sense to get within that 3-length zone and take a chance. Yeah. Now that's going to happen. We're all going to get there, but boy, there's nothing more valuable than to slow down sometimes if we see a hole developing. We can bear off and try to sail right down into that hole, which can get us into problems with boats down here, or as we're approaching, we can slow down. We can let off the gas, we can let off the main, let off the jib, and kind of just cruise in there, and when we see this hole open up, then tack in. But I guess my point is, if we can avoid this area, we're stronger. Coming in on port 4 or 5 lengths away gives us all kinds of clear options. What else? Let me ask you what else this gives us when we're in here approaching away from the ley lines.
Yeah, room to make adjustments.
Exactly. It gives us, we play our options out all the way to the end. If we're approaching here on the ley line, obviously we've played our options, and the only way this is going to work for us if the wind doesn't shift at all. Let's put us down a little bit. Let's put it down here so we're a length off the mark. The only way we're going to benefit is if the breeze swings to the left. And invariably, it always goes to the right in those situations, right? So when we're here, it gives us the opportunity to play all our options out. So that's enough on that. Getting to the ley line early can really hurt us. And it happens, but trying to avoid that is a big deal. So let's talk about the gate down here, or a leeward mark. What's the goal here, you guys? Where do we want to be? What's the ideal situation? Forget, let's not talk about where we want to be after we round. Let's just talk about getting to the bottom marks. How would we want to approach that?
Inner wide, finish tight.
Pardon me?
Inner wide, finish tight.
Yep, inner wide, finish tight, but how would we want to set up for this? Yeah.
The closest one?
Closest one? Yeah, actually, this one, the way I accidentally drew it would be the closest one, right? But this...
You have to do a 180-degree turn.
Right, you don't want to have to do a 180-degree turn. And what I'm getting at is we want to be inside. So as we approach these gates, this is the time we'd ideally want to be approaching, they like to say hot, coming in here or coming in here, so that we are inside as we come in. Boats here have to give us room, okay? See what I mean? Like we're inside the zone, we're overlapped with that boat, he has to give us room. Whereas if we're in the middle here, anybody that's coming in from the corners, or I don't want to say corners, but the edges, shall we say, because corners sounds like we've shot the corner. Here all we're doing is trying to position ourselves so that we are approaching the gate in a way that we're going to be inside, because there's nothing more important, like you said, to be wide than tight, right? So we want to be wide on this side and tight here. But if we're out here and this boat's inside, we're going to be pushed outside with that guy on our face. Does that make sense, you guys? So do you know what I mean about when we approach these marks, we want to try to be coming in on edge so that we're inside at the bottom. And if we took this gate out, and it was just a leeward mark, then we definitely want to be that boat on that side coming in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you want to establish your tactical position well in advance.
Exactly. That was exactly the next thing I was going to say. So when we say down, turn down, immediately we should say, okay, where do we want to be and how do we want to get to that edge at the bottom? And now that we've said that, everybody's going to be at that edge, of course. But still, this is what it's all about. This is why this is kind of a cool drill to practice. Okay, does that make sense?
Okay, now can you draw, you're coming in at the edge there, finish round the mark with your marker.
Okay, let's say we're here. Now, going back to what, who was it that said you don't want to do a 180-degree turn? Yeah, right there. Yeah, you don't want to come in and do a back turn. You want to kind of still end up, that's a little fat boat there, come in so that we're able to be wide on this side and tight over here. So the radius of this turn is a good length, maybe? Anyway, maybe the longer you can make that without involving another boat in a fouling situation, to take just the room you need, the better rounding we're going to have. The longer this distance is, maybe this is another way to put it, you guys, the longer this distance is, what I mean is when we're on close hauled, the faster we'll come out of there and the more we'll hold our lane, which means we'll be able to point higher better. Did I explain that well enough? Big advantage. So when we come in, nice wide then tight. What's this guy's, let me see if I can draw this right. What's this guy's move here?
Slow down and follow.
Yeah, exactly. Slow down. Drop the board early, drop the spinnaker early, whatever it is. Let this boat go around in front of him. You don't need to fight with him. I mean, let him go ahead. He's got a good position. Let him work it. Come out even wider and then come in right behind. And you never know. If the crew accidentally trims the jib in before the main, like we were talking earlier, and they slide off to leeward a little bit, you can be right inside. So slowing down, that is so crucial. That is good. Does that make, did I?
Is there any circumstance where the top boat there is much farther forward, right? The inside boat just barely has an overlap,
Yeah.
where you would go around the outside of the wheel? Like, yeah, draw it like that. Now that's...
You're this guy and...
Slow down is huge.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good question. So everybody see what we're asking here? We are just barely, and actually I didn't draw it well here, but let's say we are overlapped. We do have to give this boat room, but just barely, and we're going to lose a whole bunch when we slow down. The problem with going around on the outside and being here, is this the way we would end up, right? Yeah. So you have clear air, you have speed, you've made a nice rounding and all that. The disadvantage is if there are boats behind you that end up here, then we're pinned and we're going to go the right side of the course. You know what I mean? We have a hard time tacking because of this guy unless we bear off or slow down and let him play through and then tack. So if we have other boats around that end up on his hip, in here, then we're really pinned to that side. But you might say, there's breeze over here. It's a long, long, long race course. It might still be worth it to go this way, but it would have to be a very strong reason because it's like you've chosen the corner. You know what I mean? He's got you pinned. Did I explain that well enough? Where I think if we went really wide, worst case is we round right on his tail here, and we still are in control of our destiny. That'd be the only thing. What this is a move that you have confidence you want to go right. This is a move, I'm not quite sure. I want to be able to play my options here, which generally I think is the safest. Okay. Any questions, you guys?
And the thing that you don't want to do is, when you're talking about 180, I'm just trying, because I'm a real visual person.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do is come in really tight and try to do that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Because, and like you're saying, what happens then kind of goes back to loading the blades up too quick with the sails trimmed in, and the boat will just slide sideways. Okay. Especially in a Scott, it's really hard to do that. So, going back to this is why we need to plan. That's why I like this drill so much, because it forces us to plan our approach to the marks or the gate way back in here, so we can kind of ease this guy up a little bit, push him a little bit above the marks so that we can make this wide turn. So way back, maybe this guy doesn't realize you're kind of pushing him up so you can make a nice mark rounding, but you are a leeward boat, so you have the right to do that, and then you can make a good rounding and not have to do that back turn at the bottom.
Can you actually push him out a little bit?
You can, and is this right? Well, you can do this as long as you're not in the zone, right? As long as you're not in the zone, you can make him sail a little higher.
But once you're in your zone, you can't.
Then you have to sail your proper course, right? And the way it's going to get you around the mark, the best. Yeah. But, and it's not something like we want to luff them way, way up. Right. We just want to kind of, in our mind, just think about what's going to be the best way to approach this mark. Okay.
Because I'm kind of fond of what we call button hooking that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to do something with another boat today where, okay, we're going to come down together and we'll take the inside one and we'll do the little button hook. You do the outside, what would seem like the longer distance, but if in the end you have better boat speed, it would really be fun to just do that experiment side by side.
You know what it's almost like? It's like riding a bike, right? When we come and we want to make a turn on a bike, and if we're going pretty fast and we try to turn real sharp, well, we can't. We'll either wipe out or we got to slow way down. And then it's hard to get your speed up again. Whereas if we do our approach to our turn on our bike going wider, we can carry that speed a whole lot faster.
It's maintaining the boat speed.
Exactly. And that goes back to what you're saying about the blades and the boat stalling because they load up and the boat will just go sideways.
But the further down you go, you have to remember that's double the distance. You got to go down and then you got to come back up.
Could be longer, but if it's faster, the net would be to your advantage. That's exactly what I would love to do that, plan little try it side by side, and then we'll see, it'll be like,
Well, you're exactly right. That's what I would like to say is the radius of this turn that we're going to make is actually a little bit, in my mind, a little bit to leeward of the mark, so that this, like I pointed out before, the amount of time we're sailing close hauled, boy, it's a fat little boat, before we get alongside the mark, we will be going that much faster. And we'll be able to hold our lane because our sails are set, our blades are working for us, so we won't slide sideways and all that good stuff. So it almost dictates a turn a little bit to leeward, you know, or the radius of the turn. Did I explain that well enough?
Have you ever heard anybody call that the Jenny Craig rounding?
No, is that?
You come in fat and you go out.
I like that. I like that. That's a good one. We'll add that to our,
But that's, to your question, that's a tactical issue too, because if you come in fast and wide enough that you can round up and come close to the mark when you're going back upwind, you've shut the door on anybody else. You force that other person to go well.
go around you.
Exactly.
yeah. No, that's exactly right. Exactly right. Just to finish this, you know, we do this up and down drill with our team all the time, you know, and we know we've done enough drilling on this up and down deal when everybody's starting at the weather end of the line, you know, right at the committee boat, and nobody trims in all the way when the gun goes, because they know if we say down, they all want to bear off and be on the inside. So they're all sitting over here. So when they all turn down, they're all on this side, and we figured, okay, they got this drill done. They know exactly where they want to go. It's not about racing anymore. It's just about being at the marks, and we've accomplished our goal. So, oh, one last story I'll tell you. So, remember Ryan said about the marshmallow thing? So, starting between two marshmallows. So this is years ago when I was sailing Lightnings and I was a younger kid, and we had Tom Allen, who was a 3-time world champion, speak to our district. And he spoke about setting yourself up in between, you know, marshmallows is what he called them. He called them marshmallows, and you want to have a marshmallow on either side, and then you'll be able to blast out of there and have a good start because they're not going to mess with you. So, marshmallows, you know. Then the next, you know, spring we had this guy named Bruce Goldsmith, who a lot of you I'm sure remember, and Bruce had won like 4 North Americans and 2 Worlds, and heck of a sailor. He won a Flying Scott North Americans, he won a Thistle Nationals, I mean, an unbelievable sailor. And he was a little more aggressive with his terminology, and he called them turkeys. You know, you want to have a turkey on each side. So I wrote down turkey. So I went to the Lightning Midwinters that year. The first race I'm lined up, Tom Allen's on one side, Bruce Goldsmith is on the other side. I knew exactly where I stood, you know. So, any questions, you guys, before we go out on the water? So I think it took a little longer than we were thinking, but I think this is good with the breeze. We'll get out there, we'll sail for maybe an hour and a half would be good. Is that good? And we'll just get some good boat handling, some good upwind stuff. We'll do these drills and we'll go through them sort of fast because I think it'll be challenging. But does this sound good, Dave? Is this what we want to do? Yep. Okay.
Something I don't know, this would be race committee doing it, but to know that you are on the line or below the line, there's some people who say, oh no, you're below. It's like, this isn't about where the mast is. You have half the boat, you know, to the right of the mast. It'd be great to have the race committee say how far below the line we are, or if we can sail down the line and say, you know, are you on it, are you below it, come up.
Maybe we'll get some video of it.
Yeah, that would be good.
Does anybody need a third?
You know, what we ought to maybe talk about in the debrief this afternoon is a line sight. And it's funny, I was never a big line sight user because I always thought it was hard if you lost your line sight because somebody got in the way, you know what I mean? It was like, oh, what do we do now? This guy Zeke that we keep talking about is a big line sight user, but it's all about the safe zone. When you're safe, it's not like you know when you're on the line. That's not even important to him. It's when you're safe, you're safe, you're safe. Well, we're not so much, we're getting closer. That was so important to him. So We could talk about
I
that.
like to fine tune the gauge in my head, so I'm looking, it's like, oh no, it's like, yeah, it's like, no, you're at the same, it's like, if you had somebody that said, yes, you are, no, you.
Like if literally, there was literally a line, a rope across.
Yeah.
But we don't have a rope across.
That's
Like the first down,
Yeah.
lights up.
Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's like, oh, I'm close, no, you're not, it's like, yeah, the right side of the boat is.
Just a reminder, if anybody who came in late, we are doing 5 minutes starting sequence, not 3.
So
Looks like, 73?
Is that work for you guys, Channel 73? Everybody good on that? So again, we'll do 2 practice starts, then we'll do the up and down, and we'll do that a few times like we say here. Then we'll do our normal 5-minute start. We'll do a couple of those stop and go drills, and that might be hard to pull off if it's as windy as it appears it is, so we'll quickly blow that off. The jibe on the whistle, we won't do because we won't be putting chutes up until we're actually racing. And the tack on the whistle, we will video you guys tacking so we can talk about that, because I think the tacking on the whistle, I think, is a little easier when it's a little more controlled. So we'll video stop and go drill. We'll video the jibes so you can get an idea on that. We'll video the tacks, and then we'll do some practice races, and we'll try to do a couple practice races. And I'd suggest then that'd be a good time to give the spinnaker a go. If the breeze is right, it'd be a good time to practice that. Does that sound like a good plan, you guys?
Yeah. Sure.
Everybody good with what we're trying to do?
Does anybody have extra radio? We don't have a radio.